Hello everyone, I'm Sylvia Jones, Ontario's Deputy Premier and Minister of Health. On behalf of Premier Ford and our entire government, thank you to the Centre for Aging and Brain Health Innovation for hosting the Defy Dementia Summit and for your leadership in this field, which is helping to accelerate innovation in aging and brain health and can lead to real benefits and better care for patients and families. This summit is a great opportunity for everyone, from scientists to caregivers, to come together and discuss the latest research and insights into improving the quality of life for older adults and people living with dementia. Under the leadership of Premier Ford, Ontario has become a hub of health innovation, research, and technology. And through our government's Your Health Plan, released 1 year ago, we are making bold, innovative, and creative changes to build a healthcare system that provides people with the right care in the right place. Our government recognizes that strengthening our healthcare system means supporting individuals at every stage of life, including those living with complex care needs such as dementia, and improving access to treatment and care. That is why we are investing $120 million over 3 years for dementia services across Ontario. These supports include flexible respite and community dementia programs, behavioral supports at home and in the community, patient navigation services, and increased access to training and education for care partners and the dementia workforce. Thank you again to everyone who is part of this year's 6th Annual Summit for contributing your exceptional talents and creativity towards better dementia care and supporting older adults as they age. Our government will continue working with partners across the sector to support best practices, innovation, and ensure patients are connected to the care and supports they need when and where they need them. Thank you, and stay well.
Hello and welcome. My name is Bianca Stern, Executive Director at the Center for Aging and Brain Health Innovation, and I'm very pleased to be introducing 2 women leaders who are raising their voices in their own unique ways about ageism and what it really means to live our best lives as we age. Our topic today, what's the big deal about ageism? So Helen Hirsh Spence is founder of Top 60 Over 60. Helen is a speaker, a writer, a publisher, and strong advocate against ageism and for the potential older adults bring to society at large. Adele Ostfield is an active older adult and peer influencer with a positive aging perspective that she brings to bear in her many volunteering activities. The World Health Organization states, age is one of the first things we notice about other people. However, age is often used to categorize and divide people in ways that lead to harm, disadvantage, and injustice, and erode solidarity across generations. This is ageism, the stereotypes, how we think, prejudice, how we feel, and discrimination, how we act towards others or ourselves based on age. Ageism hides in plain sight. It is often disguised as harmless comments, or it may even be phrased as a compliment. However, comments and behaviors that are based on stereotypes of older people or that perpetuate discrimination because of age are ageist. Welcome today, Helen and Adele. And we'll start with you, Adele. What type of ageism is the most pernicious, do you think?
I love that word, pernicious, Bianca. Thank you. I'd like to answer the question within a framework. I think that there is a spectrum of ageism. I think that on the good end, if there is such a thing, of ageism, you've got seniors discounts. You've got the CRA tax benefits for being older. You've got, someone sent me a picture the other day of a parking spot labeled for seniors. Well, I think that's great. Then you've got, oh, okay, Helen, I see you rolling your eyes there. Okay. Then you have what I'd call benign ageism, and you alluded to a little bit to it, Bianca, when you said about the about the compliments that are offered. I think when people are offering those compliments, they don't intend to be ageist. They think that they are being complimentary. And some people like to hear, gee, your hair makes you look younger. They feel good about that because that's what they wanted to do. Never mind whether they should want to do that or not. And then you've got, to answer your question, the pernicious ageism. And to me, that's the ageism that undermines us. That's the ageism that makes us invisible. That's the ageism that overlooks us. It just disregards us. It says you have no value to offer me. So that to me is the spectrum, and the worst part, the pernicious part, is the ageism that just dismisses us out of hand.
Thank you, Adele. Helen.
So I'm just going to respond to what Adele said, because, in fact, I don't fully agree with her, because any kind of ageism is detrimental to individuals, and then it's compounded societally and economically as well. If it's an ism, if it's something that's negative, even if it's not intended or it's meant as a compliment, the cumulative effect of all of these kinds of notions about growing older and wrinkles and hair and so on, they have an impact on individuals. So it's sort of like that conversation between, around intent and impact. The impact is negative. And I don't consider having a senior spot ageism at all. I think, in fact, it's probably not a bad idea for older people to walk the distance if they can. So I never take those spots. But the truth of the matter is, I think that every one of those examples has a damaging impact. And so it's everyday ageism that I think is the most pernicious, because it's that kind of examples, such as with birthday cards. They are not intended necessarily to be as harmful as they actually are, but they are always making fun or poking fun of growing older, for instance. It takes you twice as long to look half as good. Advertisements, of course, they're to promote a product, but when you see nothing but wrinkle creams in magazines for women, and facelifts or Botox, and then you hear young children as young as 12 and 13 who are called Sephora kids because they're now advertising to young children, saying that they need to start taking care of their skin at this particular point in time. And they become obsessed with that. But what happens is when we feel isolated and, sort of ostracized from society, we begin to experience loneliness, and, we feel isolated, and that leads to depression and many, many more health concerns. So I really think that ageism is the kind of topic that we all need to become more familiar with and recognize it. Because, just to give you another quick example, elder speak, the way in which carers take care of older people, and they infantilize them sometimes, not meaning to be nasty or anything, but is your tummy talking now? Or are we ready for dinner? The voices, and other people on the street who might, speak loudly to you because they think that, in fact, because you're older, you must be deaf. Or, they show you something on a computer, which you know perfectly well. So those are all small incidents, but they exemplify what ageism looks like.
Thank you for that. Very, very insidious. So what about ageism do people not get? Helen?
Mostly, they don't get it at all. Most people don't get it. I mean, if you were, I spoke at a conference with 600 people the other day, and I asked them, I said, how many of you think you might be ageist? And nobody raised their hand. So then I gave them a couple of examples, such as the ones I just mentioned, or, I'm having a senior's moment, or, he's too old to do that, or an old dog can't learn new tricks. I said, have any of you used any of those expressions ever? And they shook their head. I said, so therefore you have used ageist expressions, but they're so normalized and so accepted in society that you don't recognize it. And that's where the danger lies. We don't know. We don't think it's harmful, so we don't get rid of it. It isn't addressed in diversity initiatives. It's the one ism that's left out of 92% of global companies' diversity strategies.
Adele, anything to add to that? What do people not get about all this?
I think just to summarize, if you like what Helen was saying, it's baked in. It's baked in from the time we're 2 and 3 years old. Don't hurt grandma, she's old. Don't hurt grandpa, he's gonna fall. Or, oh no, can't ask grandpa to do that, he's too old. It's just baked in from a very early age. The 3-year-old thinks the 20-year-old is old. They think the grandparent, the 60-year-old, the 70-year-old, oh my goodness, that long they've lived? Oh, did they have telephones when you were a kid, Grandpa? You know, that it's baked in. It's to use Helen's word, it's insidious.
Well, you know what? I mean, baked in, sometimes innocently or unintentionally, but nevertheless baked in. So based on what I'm hearing, would you both agree we're all ageist to a degree? What's the impact of ageism at the end of the day? I think, Helen, you started to mention it about, people's mood, depression. What's the impact of ageism?
Well, there are the health impacts that are really quite dramatic, so much so that the World Health Organization put out a global report on ageism in March of 2021. And that's the first time they've done that because they realized that this is a global epidemic. And people are reeling as a result of it, but they don't know it. So they're not aware that many of the issues that they're dealing with have to do with the fact that they have been considered less valuable than when they were younger, or they feel like they're irrelevant or invisible, especially women because of gendered ageism, which we haven't talked about, but that's particularly true of women in the workforce and elsewhere, but they have less permission to age than men, let's put it that way. They're not glorified, they're not distinguished. So in the economy, because we limit the potential of older adults, we don't retrain them, we don't rehire them, we don't recruit them, and we don't retain them, that is having a huge impact on the GDP currently. It's a global phenomena, it's not just here. Having said that, though, the largest, fastest growing component of the workforce is over the age of 75 in Canada, remarkably. So,
wow. Adele, what would you say the impact of ageism is?
Well, first of all, I want to comment on something Helen said about older men, the difference between how older men are perceived and older women. Older men with white hair are distinguished.
Yeah.
Older women with white hair are old. It's really very unfair, but that's the way it is. But I think, though, that on a more serious note, I think that we are left out. We are not at the table. I relate it to the subject of this conference, which is innovation, right? If we're not at the table when innovators are designing, are just even conceptualizing their products, never mind at the table as they test it, at the table when it's ready to go to market, they're missing out. They're designing for us, but they're not including us. They're losing a wealth of information. They're losing the wisdom that we've accumulated, and they're ignoring our needs. They're assuming that they know what we need. We know what we need. We know what we don't need. And, having innovators design products for us without us is a waste of effort.
Can I just add one thing? I think that's brilliant, Adele, and I think that's so important that we be at the table. There's no reason why we shouldn't be, except that people don't even consider it a valid input for innovation very often. But what it also does to people is it limits our dreams and our self-agency. And I find that so sad because we have an additional 30 years, a longevity bonus today that we didn't have last century. And so we're living that much longer. We can do so much more. And still we are clinging to 20th century notions about getting older.
So what do we do about it? How do we mitigate against ageism? Who wants to start?
I think role modeling I think as older people, take Helen as an example, who discovered a new career in her late 60s, me as an example, who suddenly found a passion in her 70s that she hadn't been able to explore throughout her working life. And I think intergenerational activities. I think the more that we as older people engage with younger people, they will learn that we have something to offer them. And we can learn from them as well. They will learn that we are not too old to learn. So I think intergenerational role modeling, just communicating.
Thank you. Helen, how do we mitigate against ageism?
We have more conversations like these, Bianca, in forums, at summits, and we also include it in part of our diversity strategies. That's what I think has to happen in businesses and organizations, because most organizations still do not realize that this demographic shift is here to stay. We will never have a younger population greater than older well into the next century. So we need to grapple with that and make changes so that we can accommodate an older population. But more importantly, we have to call out ageism. We have to do something about it. We have to have campaigns. We have to educate. We have to start really young with children, in junior kindergarten, with stories that we tell them about older people. If we see something that's wrong, the other thing is we have to call it out. We can say it nicely, and sometimes we won't say it so nicely, but we need to get that message out that it's not acceptable to be ageist in today's world when we have so many older people who still have the ability and want to contribute to society, and yet they're being left out in the cold.
Helen, tell me about changing the narrative. I seem to have heard that you're involved in that.
Oh, yeah, there are a number of initiatives that I've been involved with. This is something out of the United States. We were talking earlier about birthday cards, and I just wanted to say that, even Hallmark is getting on board thanks to some of the initiatives that have taken place in the United States. There's somebody, I wish I could remember her name. I think it's Golden, but I'm not sure. It's not the same as the author of the book, Stage, Not Age. And she has designed lots and lots of birthday cards and been selling them. And I believe Hallmark is taking an interest in that too. I mean, it's got to happen, but more people have to understand that even though that's funny, what they put together, it's harmful. And so, if you could put a dollar sign on that harm, more people would pay attention to it. But they don't understand. They don't get it. And can't blame them, because, as Adele said, that's what we've lived with our entire lives. Hopefully our grandchildren will have a different perspective on aging.
They'll have a different perspective, Helen, only if we educate them to not have that perspective.
Yeah.
They have to hear it differently. You said we need a campaign. There's a campaign. What's going on? If you see something, say something. I think we need a campaign. Call it out. You hear an ageist comment, call it out. Don't have to be nasty about it. Maybe you do it privately, but you don't let it go. You let someone know, that's a pretty ageist comment. That's really quite offensive if you think about it.
Yeah, you're reminding me, as I've been talking to you in the last couple of weeks, and I encountered a number of those. Now that it's top of mind, everyone's experiencing it every day. Let's talk about the positives of aging. So, Helen, what's positive about aging?
A lot is positive about aging. So our brain keeps developing, for instance. We have crystallized intelligence as we grow older. We have fluid intelligence up to the age of about 30. So we have increased neural connections. We have more empathy and understanding. We have less ego as we age. Generally speaking, we have more emotional regulation. Our brains are functioning differently. We have bihemispheric processing. And, we tend to get happier as we get older, so there are a lot of benefits that come with aging. And one of the things that I think is the most positive is the research that's being done now on the brain. And one of the most positive findings is from Becca Levy, who's a Yale professor and who wrote Breaking the Age Code, a fantastic book. And the premise is that we have a lot more control over how we age than we think, that aging, if we think about it positively, if we're optimistic about it, we have an extended lifespan of 7.5 years. If we don't, our lives will be shorter, but we heal more quickly. We can even see and hear better if we think more positively. It's a positive mindset. It's a growth mindset. And it makes a real difference in the way in which we age. So that's extremely positive findings.
So from what you're saying, a positive mindset helps people to make decisions that lead to more positive health outcomes. Adele, positive aging on your end.
It's an opportunity. Getting older is an opportunity to do things you couldn't do when you were younger. Now that we're older, we are not as concerned with getting to work for 9 o'clock. We're not as concerned with are the children looked after. As we get older, we are less concerned about the generation before us because perhaps they have passed on. So we've gotten out of that sandwich that we were in for a while. Getting old is a privilege. It's just something that's so wonderful that we should just, wow, every day is a great day. Every day is an opportunity for something new. That's, to me, the advantage of getting older. I had a checkup of my eyes a little while ago, and the technician who was checking my eyes initially said to me, any changes since last year? And I looked at her and I said, no, just a year older, and I'm really glad about that. And she turned around and looked at me. She said, really? No one ever says that. And I'm saying, yeah, absolutely. Every day you're alive is one day less you're dead. It's just like you've got this great opportunity to grow older.
You have such a positive mindset. I think that's good for any age, actually.
It is.
So what's your call to action, Adele, for our audience today?
I like to think of us as vintage cars. Perhaps some of the parts don't work quite as well as they once did, but you look at a vintage car and you admire it. So my call to action, I guess, is treat yourself like a vintage car. Take care of yourself, look after yourself, but let yourself be admired. Be admirable. Be a great example to others. It's really very simple. Just grow old gracefully. Just be happy about it.
Thanks, Adele. Helen, how about you? Call to action to our audience.
Well, I would say, first of all, aging is a privilege that not everyone gets to experience. So we should embrace our age as we age. And we should also remember to grow older, not just get older. We shouldn't be passive about getting older. We should be learning and contributing, having purpose, and being as well as we can, and making a difference in the world as we did when we were younger, hopefully. But now's a chance to reinvent yourself. So I just think that there's so many advantages that we don't talk about, and we need to talk more. And we need to recognize ageism so that we can get rid of it for future generations.
Well said. Well said. Thank you both, Adele and Helen, today. For all of you out there that want to continue to learn and connect and grow, certainly reach out to Helen at helentop60over60.com or to LEAP and CABHI for continuing to explore the topics, engage, influence innovation. We need you as part of this growing movement to change the way that we look at older adults and aging. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.